connected to your world.
I'm Christiane Amanpour in London, and this is CNN.
Closing bell now ringing on Wall Street. Sunoco ringing the closing bell. A down day on the markets, been down throughout the whole of the session, and we're just off the lows of the day. Please bring trading to an end, sir. Hit the gavel. 1, 2, 3. Three very firm gavels on a down day on the markets, but those are indeed the markets. And so what's been happening in the financial world? Well, these are the main stories of the day. A new twist in the Warner Brothers takeover story. Paramount has gone hostile, taking its offer straight to shareholders. President Donald Trump unveils a $12 billion package to protect farmers from his own tariffs. And Atlanta risks losing its position as the Hollywood of the South. I'll be speaking to the chief executive of a major film studio about the stiff competition from overseas. Because tonight we are live in Atlanta on Monday, December the 8th. I'm Richard Quest and I mean business. Good evening. We begin tonight as investors rallying behind Paramount after its hostile bid to buy Warner Brothers Discovery, the parent, of course, of CNN. Look at the numbers. Paramount shares closed nearly 8% up, 9% now. This raises much of Friday's losses when Warner Brothers entered exclusive talks with Netflix. The Paramount chief executive, David Ellison, is going directly to WBD shareholders with an all-cash offer, $30 a share. He told CNBC that Paramount's offer is better for Warner Brothers and indeed the media industry.
When you put number 1 and number 3 together, you are handing Netflix unprecedented market power, which is anti-competitive in every single metric you can measure. And we think that is bad, again. It's bad for the consumer. It's bad for the creative community. This deal, if it is allowed to move forward, will actually be the death of the theatrical movie business in Hollywood. We're sitting here today trying to save it.
Netflix chief executive Tev Saranda says Paramount's hostile bid was entirely expected. Paramount's been eyeing all of Warner Brothers Discovery, WBD, including its cable networks. Netflix only wants the TV and film studios, along with HBO and its streaming service, HBO Max. Speaking earlier, President Trump questioned whether those assets might give Netflix a dominant position, which is open to abuse.
Spoke about Netflix last night, saying you have concerns about them.
I know the companies very well. I know what they're doing, but I have to see what percentage of market they have. We have to see the Netflix percentage of market, Paramount, the percentage of market. I mean, none of them are particularly great friends of mine. You know, I want to do what's right.
Brian Stelter is with me. Though it was expected at some point, but Paramount obviously thinks that their offer is superior on a cash basis. But there's many more different aspects. So how is this going to be decided? Which shareholders are going to be Paramount?
What do they teach you on Wall Street? The cash is king, right? And Paramount's coming in offering all cash. It is saying this is a more reliable, more predictable bid that'll close sooner, that'll have more regulatory certainty. David Ellison's rolled out the PR campaign pretty perfectly today with an interview, with a press briefing call, also with a website, strongerhollywood.com, where people can go and read his campaign. But obviously, Netflix and WBD have a signed deal. The paperwork was signed last week. They are moving forward, and we know there's a $5.8 billion breakup fee on top of this. So Netflix would be paying billions, one of the biggest breakup fees in corporate history, if somehow this doesn't go forward. I suppose anything's possible though, Richard, right? Paramount could continue to raise its offer. WBD could eventually choose to go a different direction. Right now, we're in the great unknown.
This will be decided by shareholders, and in just a moment or two, I'm going to go through the various philosophies for it. But I've been very struck over the weekend by the PR campaign against Netflix because of the theatrical. And I do wonder, theatrical is, looking back at Ted Sarandis' comments, he could have been a little bit more engaging about theatrical release, bearing in mind he will be owning a
when it comes to theatrical, yeah. Look, Netflix is very clear, right? It believes you should be able to watch anywhere, anytime. And usually that means at home, on your couch, or on your phone. Netflix says it's not actually the enemy of movie theaters. It's just pro-consumer, pro-viewer. But he did say on Friday, we're going to continue to try to shrink the windows, giving movies fewer days in theaters so that people can stream them sooner. Yes, he was clear about that. Those are one of I would say there's two big arguments Ellison's making now, trying to appeal to Hollywood. One is the Netflix will hurt theaters and Paramount will help theaters. And number two, that Paramount just understands and cares more about Hollywood, will keep more people doing what they love. But Sarandis pushed back on that this afternoon and said Paramount will actually cost Hollywood more jobs. So both of these companies now doing a tug of war, trying to appeal to shareholders, but also trying to appeal to the Hollywood creative community and, of course, both trying to appeal to President Trump, both trying to appeal to the Trump administration. And it seems to me Trump's trying to be the kingmaker here. He likes the idea that there's a bidding war going on. He likes the idea that both Paramount and Netflix are trying to appeal to him.
Brian, I'm grateful. Brian Stelter in New York. Paramount is arguing that the directors of WBD, our parent company, went with a weaker offer. Now, the weaker offer bit is significant because the argument is based on the legal precedent of Revlon versus McAndrews and Forbes. It's a 1986 case, a landmark ruling on hostile takeovers. And what it actually says, this is the core bit of that ruling. It says when a sale of the company becomes inevitable, which some would suggest it is now, the duty of the board changes from preservation of the corporate identity, in the words WBD, to maximization of the company's value of a sale for the stockholders' benefit. That's the bit that WBD board will have been considering. What is in the stockholders' best interest? It's Revlon case. However, if only life were that simple, because when you compare, as Brian was just telling us, the offers from Paramount and Netflix, it's looking like apples and oranges. Remember, Paramount has offered some $30 for the whole company, right? Netflix has offered $27 3/4 for the streaming and studio side. In other words, turn that off. How do you value these two things compared one to the other? It's unclear what it's worth on their own. It is classically apples and oranges. And these are the people who will really have the main say. The decisions in the hands of the WBD shareholders. Large institutions like Vanguard, BlackRock, Joe Capital, and more. Dominic Romano is the founder and managing partner at Romano Law and joins me now. Coming back to this idea of apples and oranges, valuing two different offers for different parts of the company, that's going to be quite difficult as to which is in the best interest of shareholders.
It is. And the Warner Brothers board has a difficult decision to make here. They can't just swipe left on the Paramount offer. This is corporate law 101. If the board says no, you take the offer straight to the shareholders by offering more cash. The market loves certainty. It's very easy to value the all-cash bid by Paramount for the whole thing. What's more difficult, you're right, to value is a portion of the company that's going to be spun off separately in the competing Netflix bid.
If you take the definition from Revlon of the most value for the shareholders, which is the guiding light in a sense in all of this, how far can WBD say longer term the better interests are higher with the Netflix than this cash now, wait later?
Yeah, that's going to be hard to prove because markets change and conditions change. The board's job isn't loyalty here. It's getting the best price. And Paramount is not knocking politely. They're invoking that Revlon rulebook by going directly to the owners, the shareholders, with an attractive all-cash offer.
So we looked a moment ago at the number of shareholders, and yeah, there are some that are quite large, Vanguard, BlackRock, and the go, classic institutional shareholding. There's a couple of individuals who've got 1, 2, 3, one's got 6%. In these scenarios, what tends to happen? What percentage? I mean, in strict theory, you need 51%, yes. But in reality...
Well, more than the percentage, the
yes.
board... Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, good question. But the board has a fiduciary duty here. The board has a fiduciary duty to go with the deal that will create the greatest shareholder value. And also, there are major antitrust regulatory implications here. So the likelihood of the deal going through is another open question. This is an antitrust stress test, if you will, for modern media consolidation.
But back to this earlier point, I just want to focus in on this. If the board has the fiduciary relationship for the best value, then we're in a scenario, let's say the board decides, no, we're going to stick to Netflix, but then Paramount wants to go straight to the shareholders and put it to the shareholder vote. How does that work its way through?
Well, the board would have to make a clear and convincing argument that the lower bid, or on the face, lower part of the company, is worth more than the Paramount bid for the entire company.
Sir, this you're obviously talking about my company here, my job, but never mind that. I guess over the next few weeks, you'll help us understand the various tribulations and trials and tribulations as we work our way through it. So consider yourself, you've got a job, sir, with us. Thank you. Very grateful. Now.